Hello everyone, KosakChess here, and welcome everyone on the recap of the third round of Piraeus tournament, where I faced another Grandmaster from Greece, Mr. Kapnisis Spyridon, whom, as far as I know, he's a coach of the national Greek team. So for sure, he is an experienced player. He has a great knowledge, great theoretical knowledge. That's why it was really hard to prepare for that game because he almost plays everything. But I know one thing about him. He really likes to put his dark square bishop on g7. And after e4, I have played against him in January on the same tournament, and he played a Pierce defense. So d6, d4, knight f6, knight c3, and g6. So the opening where he puts the bishop on g7, but in the game today, he played c5, knight f3, knight c6. I could go for the Rosolimo bishop b5, but I went on for the open Sicilian d4, c takes d4, knight d4, and what a surprise, g6, with the idea of putting the bishop on g7. Here I have two options. I can go for a classical system by playing knight c3, or for a Maroczy system, which is c4, which is known as a really good, really good alternative to fight against these Dragon Sicilians, because I increase the control of the d5 square, and additionally I make a really nice c3 square for my knight. Bishop g7, he attacks my knight, so let's defend it. The bishop e3, knight f6, knight c3, castle. There is also a line where he can play knight g4 immediately, trying to capture my dark square bishop, and I can take on g4, knight d4, queen d1. There are lines like this. I didn't repeat them before the game, but I have played it some time ago. But it doesn't matter because he played a castle, bishop e2, so normal development, d6, short castle, bishop d7, and the move h3. Uh, if I need to explain what's the idea of this move, the idea is to cover the g4 square. So if I move somewhere my queen, for example on d2, I might not be afraid of some knight g4 ideas. So h3 might be even useful. I don't play f3 because sometimes I want to keep an option of playing f4. So h3 is pretty okay there. Knight d4, bishop d4, bishop c6, and queen c2. I protect the pawn, and as I told, f4 maybe is in the air. He played the move a5, and already now I was out of the book. The only move I recall is the move knight d7, after which probably I have to take the bishop, rook a d1, and after rook c8 there is a really nice strategical idea, bishop d4, then we want to capture the knight on d7, and this bishop on c6 is some sort of a limited because of my pawns, which are on the light squares. This was the only variation I recall, but he played the move a5, so a typical dragon move when he wants to play a4 and queen a5. And I was out of the book, so I had to start thinking. If I play the move b3, now I think he can play the move knight d7. The difference is that he, with the a5 and b3 moves, now he has the move knight c5, and I don't have this move b4 since he controls the b4 square. So I didn't really like going for this line. Maybe there's nothing wrong with it. Maybe I can still go for something like a3 and still try to kick off this knight. But I wasn't in mood of calculating these lines because I have to care of queen b6. It attacks the pawn. Now I can't push b4. Maybe it is playable, but I thought that, okay, rook a d1 can't be a bad move. I put the rook in front of the black queen, so what wrong can happen? He plays a4 immediately. So he was still in prep. And the only thing I know is that after the game, he told me that c5 is the best move. And of course, I calculated the move c5. I just want to open the file. I want to get rid of this d6 pawn. So I have two possibilities. I can play both c5 or e5. c5 was my first intention because I would like to exchange my wing pawn for a central one. But c5, queen a5, ed6, ed6. Of course, he has this weakness on d6. but I opened the e file for the rook, so he can attack it pretty easily. If I move the bishop to open my rook, he gets a free diagonal for his bishop, so for sure he has a compensation there. Most probably I have to go for c5, but when I haven't ever analyzed this move, and he was still in his fives, maybe it was even from the practical side better option to go for e5 because it surprised him. As you can see on the clock, d5, bishop e5, queen a5, and knight b5. This was what I was thinking of. Uh, the idea is to um, change the direction of the game to because I would be really surprised if after the move knight b5 he would be still in the preparation. I wasn't mistaken. Now he was thinking. Uh, well, maybe in some moment if I transfer the knight to d4, it will be centralized. It will attack the bishop. It maybe it will be good. But of course, after rook ac8, which happened in the game, I have to watch out for bishop b5. Also, there is a thing worth to mention. If he wants to occupy the d file, he has to worry about the move bishop c7. So rook ac8, of course, threatening to take my knight. I played the move bishop c3 and queen a8. And now knight d4 move. So yeah, pretty normal. As I told you, I want to put this knight in the center. But also I was calculating of playing just rook f1 and bishop f1 to cover the g2 square and to put the rook on the open file, attacking the e7 pawn. It might be also useful because this queen and this bishop, they are looking on the g2 square. It would be, really vulnerable if we go for the game. I played the move knight d4, bishop e4, and queen d2. And I was calculating some variations. If he plays the move b5, so he's opening a diagonal. I have the move f3. So I kick off the bishop, and then I gain a free pawn. So he didn't achieve anything after this. Uh, he can play calmly b6. And again, I have to play f3, bishop b7. And in this position, I thought I have queen e3. I can attack the pawn, maybe the knight b5, targeting also this pawn on b6. Maybe it's nothing special, but I have at least slight edge. My pieces are a little bit um, higher possessed than his pieces. So I think I can fight for a slight edge, thanks to my bigger space. Uh, but instead, he played the move a3, and he offered me a draw. Uh, of course, I rejected the draw immediately in my mind. But when I started calculating variations, I wasn't that sure about my future decision because the most natural reply, sorry, the most natural reply is to play the move b3. But after b3, now the pawn is not protecting the bishop. A lot of you, a lot of you may ask, what's the problem with this? Now he plays the move b5. So again, he's targeting the g2 pawn. I play the move f3, and b takes c4. And now things can, get a bit scary. F takes e4, knight d4. So he's attacking my queen, he's attacking my bishop. If I move the queen, c takes b3. And the position is really complicated. I don't know what's the real evaluation, what's the correct assessment of this position, but he has these two pawns. This pawn might be queen really soon. My bishop is attacked twice. This bishop is really strong. For sure, he has a compensation there. B takes c4. It was his idea to target a b3 pawn and to open the c file. And I was trying to calculate variations. Maybe I would take on c4, but after he plays bishop c7, bishop b7, now the pawn on c4 is really weak. I don't want to go for such pawn structure. If I take with the bishop, he has bishop d5, and literally no problems. Both of the bishops are on the c file. The rook attacks them. I also have a problem with the c4 square. Uh, rook d8 next. Rook d8 next. He has totally no problem there. So after a3, I was scared. Maybe b4. But again, after b4, he can play b5 anyway. He can play b5 anyway, and after the move f3, I think b takes c4 also. Maybe I am mistaken right now, but knight c3, queen c3, and queen a7, something like this. I didn't really like with rook d8 next. I have a really big problem. Although I am piece up, there is a lot of overload on the d4 square. So this a3 move was really tricky. And I decided to reject the draw. And after 60 minutes of thinking, I played b takes a3, and I am really proud of this decision because when I saw all of these variations, when maybe I am not losing, but I am risking a lot, the acceptation of the draw would be a non-risk decision, getting half a point against a grandmaster. So, of course, not a bad result. But b takes a3 is the ambitious way to continue the game. And if I lose, okay, something happens. I think I will learn something from that game. But if I don't give myself a chance to try for a win, I would be just a coward. And I don't really want to be a coward. So that's why I took the pawn on a3, and I just followed the situation. He played the move b5, so a really optimistic way to continue the game. The thing is now that the pawn on a3 for him doesn't exist anymore. So after calculating variations, we will see that in the near future. I was kind of calm. He can play queen a3 there, which was the move I expected if he wants to play solid. And after bishop b4, something like queen a7. If I take the pawn on e7, rook e8, and he puts the rook on the open file, I think he might fight for a compensation there. So queen a3 was one of the moves. Rook d8 was another one. But now after queen e3, if he takes on a3, I think after knight b5, bishop f6 and queen e4, I am winning the material. So queen a3, in my opinion, might be the best looking move. But b5 was really interesting. I played the move f3, b takes c4. So he went for a really critical line. F takes c4, I have to accept the challenge. Knight e4, queen e3, knight takes c3, queen c3. And during the game, I didn't know how to correctly evaluate this position, but the only thing I knew is that he needs to be precise. If he is not, I am piece up. He played the move rook cd8, which might be unintuitive because now the pawn on c4 is unprotected. But well, if he plays rook fd8, which was my main concern during the game, there might be some variations when the f7 pawn is unprotected. I might play some move like queen f3, getting out of the pin and attacking the pawn on f7. But I think I don't have a good way to do it. If I play queen f3 immediately, there is a move bishop d4 check. If I sacrifice the rook, queen f7, king h8, queen e7, maybe I am threatening some checks, but there is nothing more than perpetual there. At least this is what I think. Rook fd8 was probably a good try. Because he played the move rook cd8, so maybe I will compare this variation to the one which happened in the game. If I go out of the pin and I play queen e3, he might play queen a7, sorry. I go knight f5, queen e3, knight e3, bishop d4, king f2, and with the rook on c8, he might have a move like rook c6 at least, threatening some check, threatening to go rook e6. I don't know, because I haven't checked it that deeply. I decided to starting calculating this when this position occurs. But my intuition tells me that there might be something for black. There might be a compensation, even though he's pieced down. But this pawn is going for the c1 square. The rook can give some checks. It can go to e6. So there might be something. But he played the move rook cd8 and queen e3. Like this what was happened in the game. I get out of the pin, and I also defend the diagonal g8 a7. Because if I go, for example, if I just chop the pawn, he plays queen a7, and I don't have a good way to defend this knight. So because this knight is pinned. So queen e3 was probably the only move there because queen a7 is the threat. If he plays king h, if I play king h1, there is also queen a7, or maybe even queen e4. Yeah, maybe even queen e4 to attack the knight. But he played rook cd8. I played the move queen e3, queen a7, and knight f5. The thing is, I am jumping with the knight, and I attack the queen, and additionally I protect my own queen. Queen e3, knight e3, bishop d4, and king f2. So he went a little bit optimistic because if he saw this exact position when he is pieced down with no real counterplay, he would never go for this variation. I am curious what he missed. Uh, Maybe queen e3. No, not this one. In this moment, maybe this queen e3. Uh, I don't think it's a it's a hard move to miss, but sometimes it happens because after I played king f2 move, I protect the knight, and the rest of the game is pretty clean. c3, bishop c4. I make a pressure on the f7 pawn, then maybe I go on e2, and I am just piece up. King g7, king e2, f5. So he is trying to pretend that he has a compensation, but the rest of the game is pretty easy. I exchange pieces because I have material advantage, and I push my free pawn a4 move. Rook d4 because bishop d2 might be a threat, so I don't want to close my own rook, so that's why I played rook d4, bishop d2, a4, rook c5. We play the next two moves, and after knight d4, he just decided to call it a day. So, well, he can maybe try to defend by playing rook a6, but if I play rook c5, then knight b5, knight c3, he is losing the pawn, he's the only strength in this position, so he decided to resign. Well, 3 out of 3, it couldn't be a better start, so I am really happy of my one's quality of my play and of the decisions I am taking. Because after the move a3, as I told you, I could just accept a draw, to don't risk anything, to just be solid, don't lose a game, etc., etc. But I decided to accept the challenge, so I am proud of it because the best players in the world, they're always trying to find a chance. They're always fighting to create something. And if I want to compare the best players, I have to behave like them. So I am really happy that I accepted this challenge, and I am not happy of the fact that I didn't know the theory. But yeah, let me check. Let me check the game with the engine. I will show it to you. You should probably see it right now. Yeah, so the Sicilian, etc., etc., Maroczy, h3, knight d4, bishop d4, bishop c6, queen c2. Do you see the engine? Yes, you see. a5. Okay, rook a d1, not a bad move, but b3 is the first line. Okay, rook a d1, a4, h4. For what? What's the point? Queen a5, knight d5. Okay, it's too much. It's too much for me. h4. So that's why I play h3, to then play h4. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but c5 is reasonable. Queen a5, cd6, ed6, and f4. But what if he attacks the pawn? Bishop f3. Okay, so this is probably the position I need to analyze deeper to understand it more. Yeah, like with the pawn on d6, I can believe that I have an advantage, but I didn't want to give him an open file and also to give him a possibility to attack my center. The move e5 isn't bad, but yeah, the position is almost equal. Rook a8, bishop c3, queen a8, knight d4, okay, bishop e4, bishop e2, e4, queen d2, a3, okay, really good move. B takes a3 is pretty okay. 4 also, but ba3, and b5. Okay, so b5 is okay. f3, b takes c4. Wow, so this holds. F takes c4, knight d4, queen e3. Yeah, knight c3 the only move, queen c3. And rook c d8. Okay, rook c d8 is a mistake because of the queen e3 the only move. So rook f d8 is an option. And yes, and if I play queen e3, queen a7 the only move, knight f5, queen e3 the only move, bishop d4 the only move. Whoa, king g3. Yeah, because this rook is unprotected. Okay, I missed this. I missed this totally. But c3 gives him full equalization. Yes, because he has two rooks in the game instead of one. It makes perfect sense. And if I try to protect the pawn, now he plays c2 and something like rook c3, rook c3. Ooh, I might even lose this game. If I play the move king h1, he has the move queen e4, and now he gains this knight. If I play queen f3, he can take on d4. Of course, he loses the pawn on f7, but king h8 and he is perfectly safe. So rook c d8, it was a decision most probably which was a solid and grandmaster understanding of the game. Uh, but chess nowadays are brutal, and you need to be just precise and concrete. If even if you play a move which looks smart but doesn't work because of some concrete variation, it just doesn't work. It's just how the chess look like today. Queen e3 the only move. Knight f5, okay, queen e3, knight d3, bishop d4, king f2, c3, bishop c4, okay, the first line, but it's pretty it's pretty logical. I didn't mention that after c2 I wanted to play rook c1 and just, okay, take the pawn, but I think everyone knows it. King g7, king e2, f5, knight c2, yes, to just block the pawn, bishop b6, bishop f6, take, rook d1. Okay, so the conversion was on a really good level. Rook d5, rook 6, and knight d4. Okay, well, I think I I think I have many reasons to be happy after this game. So am I, and yeah, we still keep fighting. Tomorrow we have a double round, so we need to save an energy. Also, find a time to prepare something. And yeah, guys, we are still fighting. We don't give up. Uh, and yeah, I have nothing more to say. Thank you very much for joining me. Still keep fingers crossed for me, and yeah, see you guys. Bye bye.